Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel. I don't have a number for this episode because frankly I don't know when you're going to see this. I might drop this in a little bit later depending on what may or may drop, because we're in the middle of like leak mode. So I don't know what's coming or when it's coming, but I might have to bump this just in case. But whenever you're seeing it, hi, welcome back to the Toy Store Life. I have a doozy for you today. I have been telling this to friends behind the scenes, and the universal reaction is, you've got to make a video of this. So we are going to do a video of this. Now, I want you to keep in mind, this does involve another party, as well as a retail product still in development. So, in order to avoid any kind of messy situations here, I am going to be intentionally vague. I'm not going to show you any of said retail product, even though I've seen it, and I'm not going to use any kind of names. No kind of character names, no name of anything, including the guy who put this whole thing together. And anything I say in this video is purely speculative based on my own feelings and opinions. I am not directly accusing anyone of any wrongdoing or ill intention. But if I think that's what's going on, I will be very clear in that it is only something that I am assuming, guessing at, or just have my opinion on. Just so we're completely clear, okay? Because this is going to get messy. So, I've dealt with a ton of stuff in my years here working at the toy shop. We talked about these really weird people bringing in really weird things. But never have I seen someone have more enthusiasm for his audacity as the person we are going to be discussing today. So, we had someone come in here, this might be like a little over a month ago at this point, and the man was peddling his own TCG. Apparently, he had just loved TCGs so much that he has decided to create his own. And you know what? That's fine. I've seen people make their own TCGs. Okay, so that's all well and good. All right, that's fine, and I'm not going to stand in the way of that or say call him out or say, okay, that's ridiculous or anything like that. So that's fine. It is a little bit off-putting when the first discussions that he has is about how valuable his cards might become someday. That was a little bit concerning. So basically, he wanted to come sit under the learning tree. He wanted to actually get some feedback from the local TCG shops, just so he knows his product is going in the right direction and everything is like looking good, etc., etc. Okay. So the first thing I tell him is, well, you're starting from nothing. You're not based on any TV show, movie, cartoon, anime, manga. You're based on nothing. All your original creations. So you are going to have to hone in the game really, really good. Because from the first conversation, it does seem like he has some idea of how the game would run. But I tell him, like, you've got to dial it in. The game has to be really fun and engaging. And that is literally the only way you have of getting any kind of foothold whatsoever. So that's my first advice to him. And he leaves with that advice. But he says he's going to bring back samples. And a couple weeks later, oh yes, he did bring in samples. Now, I cannot show you said samples because, of course, as again, I'm being a little bit careful about keeping everything anonymous here. However, the layout of the card has already been completely redesigned, and it's unrecognizable from its original state. So what I've done is I'm going to show you a mock-up of the original state, the original prototypes of these cards. Now, even if this thing does make it, even if this becomes a nationwide, well-known TCG, the new design for the cards is so radically different, you would never be able to tell that this is the game that it's referring to. So, I want you to take a look at a mock-up of what these cards looked like. Beautiful, isn't it? So, I immediately have my issues. Yes, he had the game's logo as well as his company's logo both on the face of the card. The game logo's on the backside of the card, by the way, where it's supposed to be, but he also insists on throwing his own logo in there. Just for the record, the man has a luxury product company, so the man's got money thrown around to make all this happen. But it's kind of clear by this, really, he is, also kind of promoting his luxury items at the same time. And these are luxury items that, again, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but literally it takes thousands of dollars to obtain one of these things. Guy's got money to push around. But he's also pushing his brand's logo onto these cards as well. And several of the cards feature his product. Meaning this feels as much an advertisement for his personal brand as it does its own TCG. Now that I have explained that, have you had time to take in the visuals? I don't like the fact that 20 to 25% of his card was taken up by logos that don't have to be there. I hated where he put the name and how big he put the name of the card. It's very inconvenient and awkward. The dumbest part of this is the serial number of the card. The one of however many is in the first set. It was in the middle of the card. In the middle of the card. You know how it's normally in the corner, so it's really easy to sort and find when you're flipping through a stack of cards? No, middle of the card, which would make it nearly impossible to find one by number. The upper left box, ignore all of that. So for as wasteful as this is space-wise, everything in that top left white box, that is all fluff. They all labeled 3 things, but none of those things mattered in the gameplay. It was all flavor. So he wasted a ton of space with just a flavor box. To the right of it are the card's stats. Now, you have typical stuff for a TCG, but then you also have things that don't seem to make sense for a card game, and then just random stats that don't seem to connect to any of the other rules, and none of the cards mention them by rule either. The one thing that is correct in this, literally, when I put beans on the card, it really is that out of place and weird to see on a TCG with no explanation. The one thing on here that is accurate to the cards is rarity, and I'm including that because it's ridiculous and because it's also being changed. It's going to be symbols in the final game. So the rarity system is out, so I can show you the rarity system, which was originally numbers 1 through 10. So you're telling, literally these went up to 10. So you're already fearing, what do you mean there's 10 rarities in this game? No, there's not. Because one of the cards is marked 9+. Which means there might have been 20 rarities in the game. So that wasn't really the best thought out. And then you get to the rule box at the bottom. Now, for full disclosure, I have copy pasted a big chunk of TF Wiki's article on Optimus Prime just to fill this box because I needed it to be as space filling as possible in order to demonstrate how tiny the text is. Near imperceivable in person without a magnifying glass. And almost all of it is filler fluff. Only one thing, only the topmost part, was an actual rule of the card. And across the card, they would all mention things that don't seem to mesh together. When I demonstration here is if you can't read it, neither could we. But also, if you can't read it, the top line says that Optimus Prime gets a +1 bonus on Mondays. And the cards would literally have things nonsensical like that. So we had no clue what any of this meant. I put this in front of friends of mine who have done playtesting for other games like this, and they couldn't make heads or tails of what any of this meant. It literally just felt like random things thrown on there, mechanics that nothing else mentions, and then just a ton of fluff that was like almost like pseudo science, like pseudo philosophy nonsense, but also oddly generic. We'll get to that. By this point, you've looked at this card a long time. Who spotted the fact that Prime has 2 left arms? In case you were doubting this, yes, the cards used AI-generated art. All of them. They all had the same generic look, the same generic 45-degree angle look on the character. All of them were just kind of standing around doing nothing. You had one character with, right here, 2 left arms. You had another character with 3 hands and scrolls melting into their wall. You had a character with an eye growing out of their cheek and helmet details that kind of bled out of their head. It's horrible. It's horrible, and it's incredibly blatant just how bad it is. Like, so he's been using AI generation, and when I explain more of this, you're gonna really find out why. So yeah, the cards all look terrible. They genuinely do. At the time, I didn't spot the AI stuff because I'd only looked at the cards he'd presented. In order to see the ones that were really egregious and obvious AI, I had to look inside the box. Because the only product he was planning to release for this game was the box. So what was in the box? Okay, so the box itself is his main character and the logo on the front of the box. And it's on this weird, just generic gradient background. And then the sides of the box are blank. The top of the box is blank. The bottom of the box is blank. I thought this was like a cologne box or something. It didn't look like a TCG box. And then on the back side is this very like chat GPT thrown together description of both kind of the lore, but kind of the game mechanics as well. Like, it didn't make it sound exciting or fun. I'll put it that way. And it's just a block of text. The box itself does not include anything you need to know. It doesn't include how many packs are inside. Doesn't include how many cards are inside. Doesn't include a barcode if a shop needed to scan this in. Doesn't include anything, really. And the man was suggesting that this was ready to go and we should like invest in it right now and just buy some of his boxes and put them out for sale. We'll get to that in a bit. Let me get through all of this first, and then we'll go into how hilarious that is. Now, you're asking what is in the box. So, inside said box, you are going to receive 3 booster packs of his game, a playmat, and an additional sheet of paper that got printed off his home printer because he forgot very important stats that are supposed to be on the card. So there's just a list of stats that are supposed to be on the cards. And again, it makes no real sense. Like, there's nothing that really tells you like what these stats are supposed to do. The hilarious thing about this one, by the way, since it just reminded me of this, there are like across the different like rarities, like once you get into some of the other cards, the everything changes. There's no rarity anymore. It just says common in the upper left box. No flavor text, no nothing. It just says common. That's it. And they only had 2 stats in the right box instead of 4. So how are those cards different than these cards? Like, why do these cards have so many other stats? Are they compatible with each other? Am I supposed to play them different ways? Like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, the cards literally don't mesh between each other. They only shared 1 common stat, by the way. So, let's get back to the box. So, I told you, you get 3 booster packs in the box, right? Okay. So, how many cards per booster pack? Oh, this is a great thing. So, Every booster pack has 4. By comparison, pretty sure that's how many you got in the McDonald's booster packs. That's how many cards come in those little trick-or-treat packs that you give out at Halloween. You know, it's nothing. You know, so you're getting 12 cards in this box total. And you are, okay, but, you know, you're also getting, you know, the playmat, right? You're getting a full playmat, right? In every box. Okay, that's fine. And the playmat doubles as the instructions for how to play the game, which would be fine if that was all one side of the, you know, like the back side has all the instructions on how to play the game and the front side just has the playmat, you know, so you can read up on it and then lay it out and play. It's inconvenient because you have to flip it over and throw your cards around to double check a rule, but you're going to have extra. Don't worry. Get into that too. So the playmat itself includes the rules, but not on the back. It's the same front and back. The rules of the game take up about a corner of the space on the playmat. And the rules leave out a few details that you might need in order to play the TCG. So when I tell you a lot of the cards had unique statuses and different things about each one, the cards do not, the rules do not list what those mean or how they are triggered. The rules do not explain the basic stuff about the stats of the game. The rules do not include how I'm supposed to determine who goes first in the game, how the first turn resolves so that the player going first doesn't have a big enough advantage, and it does not include how many cards my starting hand should include. The rules were basically just like 5 or 6 bullet points on the generic structure of the game, and that was it. By comparison, the rule book for Pokemon TCG is 44 pages long, because you have to account for literally any conflict that you could come across, how everything works, how everything is played, what everything means. All of it has to be included. All of it. So, with all this said, now that you know exactly what you're getting in said box, is his precious little box, now I can tell you the price. So, when he first pitched this box, he suggested that our shop should be buying each box for $60 in order to sell at his MSRP of $100 for 12 cards total. By comparison, I have boxes of Magic the Gathering that include 12 packs, 90 land cards, and a collector booster on top of all of that for $90. So, admittedly, when he gets called on this, he drops it down. He drops it down to $20 and $40. That's still a ridiculous price. $20 is too much for this. I would pay like $8 for 12 cards and a playmat. You know, at the absolute most. It was absurd. And you had to wonder, like, if he wanted 60 before to personally profit off of, now he only wants 20, and is he still profiting off of that? Like, I don't know. Okay, fine. We don't talk this. We're not buying anything from him. We have no deal with him, and we never put anything out for sale because this is woefully incomplete as a product. What we agreed to do is leave it out on the counter so our regulars could also take a look at the cards and the game and give him feedback. The feedback was everyone hated it. No one could make sense of the rules of the card, nor could anyone actually read them in the first place. No one could make sense of the game, and people spotted the AI nonsense immediately. So no one really liked the cards. Nobody liked the cards. Now, How close to playing a game can you get? So here's the thing. He didn't have any other product in mind. No big booster boxes, no individual packs. He mentioned selling individual packs, but didn't say how. And didn't really seem to have a plan for that. All he was really concerned about was his one box. You know, because it's a startup. So he just wants to get everything out in one box and not have to deal with multiple product lines. I get that. Okay, fine. But he wants everything in his box, and that he wanted $100 for originally. But that also meant no theme deck. So there was no way to just pick up and play the game like there is literally any other TCG on the planet. So, how do you play a game? You ready for this? The rules do tell you how many cards you need for a deck. The number of cards you need for a deck is 25. Now, part of you are shocked at how low that is because that seems like it would make for a really repetitive game, and it would. A disastrously repetitive game. This would not be fun in the least. I might play it like twice, maybe 3 times before I realize this is the same game every time and throw them away. However, that some of you also picked up on the mathematical problem here. 12 cards per box. 2 boxes only gets you 24. I'm going to need 1 more box. So $300 later, I can put a deck together. And I have to hope that RNG actually allowed me to draw the right cards that will actually mesh together. I asked him, are you sure this is actually going to be a playable deck? Like, oh, yeah. You'll see by how few rules he thought of. I severely doubt he figured out how to make these packs draftable and universally playable. But keep in mind, that's just so you can have a deck. In order to actually play, you need to have a friend also invest in this. So you might give him one of your spare cards so he can finish his deck, meaning you and your friend are $500 deep before you can even play, assuming you can figure out the rules. I can play Magic the Gathering for free online. This is one of the worst product loadouts I've ever seen. I'm still recording this in the shop. There's other places in the shop that are still open. They're in the plaza. We're still open. As I was just describing that part, a little girl is screaming, crying outside, going by my door. Her dad's with her. Don't worry about it. But it's just such good timing because that's exactly what my brain was doing when I realized this catastrophic flaw in his marketing scheme. Even at the reduced $40 per box, it's still absurd. $200 to find out this game makes no sense. And this guy is moving into full production as we speak. Like he thinks this game's ready to go. And no. It is a horrifically flawed game. Now, through all of this, we're just kind of entertaining this. It's not really hurting anything. It's just we're just kind of giving him some advice and field testing this. If anything, I want him to realize that what he's up to is just not going to work, and not to try to enter the space with something that is so woefully underdeveloped. But he's never going to pick up on that. So he makes a mistake. See, I will be nice. I'll be optimistic. I will entertain this as long as I can. But if you make a mistake, you're done. So he posted a picture like this to the game's Instagram. It's deleted now. You're not going to find it. But it's a picture that looks just like this. And no, that's not his game in the picture. That's it's Grand Archive. We just started carrying that game. But this is basically the format. Because when he was in here one time, he said, can I just see what it looks like on a shelf? So, and you know what? I've done little like mock-ups of like stuff I'm excited for, just to kind of see it the way I want to be able to see it. Just kind of like be excited, hype myself up. Okay, you know what? Fine. Just so you can kind of see the dream, I guess. But he snapped a photo of it. And I'm like, that's going to come back and haunt me, isn't it? Sure enough, he posted on Instagram and claimed that we were the first store that was selling and carrying his game. That's your mistake. We never agreed to do that. I think we never, ever agreed to do that. We have no license with them. We have no signing, no arrangement. We haven't purchased anything. We left the game out so people could give their feedback and evaluate it for him. We basically acted as a test market. But the way he phrased it, and because this photo he took with other product on the shelf, like showing it literally on a shelf on our store floor with other priced and ready to sell products, it makes it look like we're selling it. We're not. So now he's misrepresenting the store. He's flat out lying about us. This is the one accusation I can absolutely throw at him because that's what he was doing. So I got curious. So on one of his visits, he started talking about other shops that were also giving him advice. And he talks huge on this, by the way. I didn't even mention this part yet. Every time he comes in, he tells me about like who he's working with and you know how like he's already got like so many orders and so many shops interested. And like at one point he told me that he was talking with regional managers for Best Buy and Walgreens and that they were interested in the game. And I immediately thought in my head, no, they're not. If they wanted to carry a different TCG, there's a dozen different options that are more popular, more established, and feature well-known IPs. I could look over to my left and I can see like 3 of those games. You know, they could stock Grand Archive if they want. They stock Flesh and Blood. They stock Schwartz. You know, there's options outside of just the big games. So I don't believe them in the least. And I know for a fact those stores don't work with local businesses. But then he tells me that other TCG shops in the area are doing stuff with it. That one of them's going to hold a game night demonstrating the game so everyone can come see how it's played. And another shop told him that like, okay, well, like their concern was like how little they get in the box. So he was expanding how much came in each box. God, if 3 packs of this game costs $100, I hate to see what 9 costs. But that's in where he made a mistake because he actually named one of the shops. Now, there aren't that many shops in the area, but as soon as you name one, now I can have something to work with. So you see, it's not necessarily like cutthroat amongst us. There's plenty of TCG players around to share. Everyone shops at every store anyway, and we have plenty of product different from each other. They don't sell toys, you know, and we don't sell sports cards. So you know what? We can get along fine. We can exist peacefully in the same space. So I called them. I flat out called them. I gave them the name. I described the product. I told them the pitch. And at best, they described him as, that sounds sort of familiar. They didn't know him. They didn't know his game. They hadn't given him any advice. Most likely, all they probably encountered was he probably came in, said he had this game that he was trying to push, got told we don't deal in local games, which is what they described, and wished him the best and sent him on his way, which frankly is what we should have done. But I have to be optimistic and be nice to people. So you know what? I call, I get the info, and I brace myself. The next time Mr. TCG Man comes in, I have to read him the riot act. And I start in light. Like, I tell him about the Instagram post, and at the very least, he's very quick to say he will delete it, so that didn't have to start a big fight. It did later on. That's the beginning. How this ends is him being very pushy about being told to take that down because he did not understand that the way he presented it made it look like we were selling, and did not clearly state that it was only here for viewing and demonstration. But the photo you saw is literally what his photo looked like. It looked like it was out for sale. And his terminology was vague because it was based on his game, meaning it didn't sound like it was just a demonstration. And it's only my personal opinion and my suspicion, but I'm pretty sure he intentionally did that. So that was a long bit. But in between that, we also had the AI discussion. I didn't start with that. I flat out asked him who his artist was. And for the first time in about a month and a half of all this back and forth, he got businessy with me. His answer to that question was, I cannot divulge the name of my artists or partners in this project. Like, for the first time, he used some kind of legalese on me. That tells me everything I need to know. You know what else tells me everything I need to know? You know, everything on this represents something that was on his card. Do you see what else is missing? The name of the artist. There is no such thing as an artist who would not want their name attached to the TCG card that they drew. Because if that card ends up being worth $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 someday, that's a big feather in their cap, because the art is one of the major reasons why that card becomes valuable. So you don't release a TCG without crediting the artist on the card. Literally any card in here that we have right now does exactly that. So I know for fact he doesn't have an artist. I assume he does not have an artist. But the fact that he cannot give me a name immediately, even just lie, tell me 2 random names and I will probably believe it. I don't know, Jimmy John's. Yeah, does sandwiches on the side. So there's no TCG artist who would ever want to be anonymous on any card game whatsoever. Period. So I don't think he has an artist. You know, and he proceeds to give me the exact same explanation you would expect from someone who's got caught using AI of, well, it's still from my head. But you just said you had an artist doing this, so it's not from your head, it's from the artist's head. He starts throwing nameless people under the bus. Oh, but it's so hard to do this. Like, there's so much I gotta manage in the production. Like, it's so hard. Slow down. That was the big thing. So, what I learned in this final conversation with the man is that the card game has existed for a grand total of 2 months. Yeah, 2 months since this guy thought it up, and is at this current state where he thinks that he's ready to produce hundreds of units. So, to give you a little bit of scale here, I have people that I have followed that have produced their own TCGs. I have watched the development process of a TCG. And literally, it was over a year of development before this thing was even ready to put in front of players. And let alone make physical product. So this is rushed. And again, if you've gotten to this point, and you have the number of cards you claim to have, I don't think you have an artist. It's literally impossible in 2 months to come up with the number of cards you claim this game already has. With one person drawing it all? No, that is not possible. So yeah, he's using AI generation. He knows he's using AI generation. So what he was originally pitching as a luxury item seems to be very, very cheaply made. And just his own doing. And judging by just the fact that the lore of the cards just sounds like guff. The characters are nonsensical. There's one character on one of the cards that, like, I'm going to give you some. This is wrong, but it's in this vein. It'd be like if the card was just of a tree, and the name of the card was Tree, and the tree just had like his personal like luxury item dangling from one of the branches. That's literally one of the cards, just with the parts rearranged. It's that level of complete lack of creativity, and this man wants me to believe that all this came from his mind. No, it did not. He can't even put together a fully fleshed out card game. So, my personal belief, from everything that I have spent the last half hour describing, my personal belief is that this man sees how hot the TCG market is and decides that he is going to get in on this, but knowing that this is a bubble that could burst as, you know, at any moment, he has decided to rush this out as quickly as possible in order to cash in on it. So he's put out a product using AI art with rules that make no sense because he has not clearly thought out any rules or game mechanics, with product that is very poorly arranged, distributed, and priced. All in an effort to try to make a quick buck off of the TCG market while it's hot. That is my opinion. I'm not accusing him of doing that. For all I know, he really is passionate, and this is just the way he put things together so far. And, you know, this product is still like actually 2 years from going into full production. But he claims it's ready to go now, so. So in a very long-winded story, that's what I've had to deal with over the last month and a half or so that he's been popping in. He's not welcome here anymore. I don't want to hear another thing about his game. I gave him a chance. I will be nice. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But he screwed up and lied about the store. He misrepresented us. So, no, he's done. So, this is a chaotic story. I did not mean to take this long, but you could see just how much this has gone through. You can see how much I've had to like toil over this and just how many layers of nonsense I have to comb through in order to get this. And even here, close to a 40-minute video now, I'm not even sure I've covered everything. I'm sure I've missed a thing or two here. But that's what's been going on here in the most vague terms that I can while you still understand the whole situation. If you made it through such a marathon of a video, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I hope you at least got more amusement out of this situation than I have been getting. But I'm going to leave it there. So thank you all for watching. I'm going to go take a nap now.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.